Oh, snap. Just when Chris Evans is about to take a dump on your face, you stab him in the groin. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the Fanatics of Film, and here is my quick review of the last few episodes of Breaking Bad to catch us up for El Camino coming up this Friday. It turns out, however, trivial as it may seem, the single most important catalyst that propels the next conflict that will be ultimately the end of the series and Walt's life is the color of the product. Walt's only obligation left to Todd and his uncle's group of criminals is to cook once more, helping Todd to perfect the color. This is one, and of course the purity. This is one particular detail that pushes us right into the next nightmare. So Walt has been, he's out of the game. He's out of it. Uncle Jack, played by Michael Bowen, Uncle Jack's detachment from humanity and his nonchalance towards murder is believable and scary, making the audience aware of his possibilities and what he is willing to do and how unpredictable he is. He is completely detached as Todd. They are characters who are perhaps unanswered questions, people without the morals that have been continuously distorted and drowned throughout all 5 seasons, where morals have saturated the entire persona of this show, now are faced with their absence. So let me repeat that. Where morals have saturated the entire persona of this show, now we are faced with the absence of morals. Once again, here we are, and Walt is, of course, willing to put a poor child in harm's way just to flush Jesse out. Brock seems to have a sixth sense here, almost completely apprised of Walt's danger and what he has done and what he might be willing to do. It is as if he can see all of Walt's bad decisions like he was able to see them, and knows that it was he who had poisoned him. The deviousness of Walt's threat on Andrea's family is crazy, because he does it in a weird friendly way while having Andrea call Jesse to leave a friendly message. Walt is attempting to set a trap for Jesse at Andrea's house. This is horrible. I remember seeing this. This was just horrifying. As Walt runs past his family with explosive desperation, we are reminded of what has surpassed Skylar and Walt Jr. in importance: his legacy, which at this point has become nothing but a few barrels of cash in the desert. The brilliance of their plan to lure Walt out to his money is incredible and uncanny. Walt confesses to murders on the phone as he is on his way out to the barrels, to remind him that he always had a soft spot for Jesse. So he's just basically pleading with Jesse, while Jesse's just like, yeah, bitch, here we go. Fire it up. Fire in the hole, bitch. It's great. It's just a really funny moment, really funny stuff there. When you think about it. As Walt realizes that he has led his new enemies to the party, his options are diminished. He decides to call the Nazis, provides the coordinates, and then calls it off. At this point, it has become irrelevant because they are on their way anyway. Walt is forced out from behind the rock as he called his home, and here we are faced off with 2 bald men on 2 sides of the story. Once again, they are in the same location where their cooking had first ever started, so the poetic cyclical resolution is paramount here. Walt and Jesse can't contain the disdain that they feel for each other, and Walt has become vulnerable, wondering about his choices. You do see it in his face. You see that in his face. Season 5, episode 14, we are reminded of the bond that Walt and Jesse have built when we see their silly arguments while they cook in the RV, back when things weren't broken and things were good. In this scene, Walt tries to save Hank's life by offering all of his money to the Nazis. This moment is slightly redeeming of Walt. He says, they call him, they call him Mr. DEA or something like that, and he's like, his name is Hank, His name is Hank. You have to forgive me, my voice is dying here. The consequences of Walt's poor decisions has finally come raining down upon him when he has now given his entire $80 million in savings to these new foes. And the poetic tragedy is reinforced when both Hank and Gomez are buried in the exact same spot that Walt's precious money was. Jack decides to leave one barrel for Walt. Todd is one of the strangest characters I have ever seen on television. Well, he's so unpredictable. He's very unpredictable. Walt's reluctance to accept the reality of the situation is followed by his rage, giving Jesse to the wolves. Although Walt has explicitly told them before that he didn't want him to suffer, now that is pretty much forfeit. Walt reveals his allowing Jane's death to Jesse, and with no gas left, Walt is stranded with $11 million in a nice car with bullet holes in it. Now here we are, stranded in the middle of the desert, accompanied by a melancholic country song, and Walt is rolling his dough through the sand. In this moment, the show has become a true Western. It has always had these elements in it, but now here we are, all cowboys watching this tragedy unfold and spew out regret and shame. Now, here we are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Marie is sweating down Skylar like it is an interrogation with open-ended threats. The pain and suffering that Jesse is subjected to in his cage in the hole is horrifying. I cannot believe how he had ended up in here, how faced with being forced to cook against his will, and Andrea Brock being held over his head, his face cut up like a horror movie. Todd is relentless and weird as hell. All hell breaks loose in the White's household as Walt is deciding to run, trying to force his family to leave with him. Skylar is finally realizing that Hank has been murdered, and Walt is still trying to have his cake and eat it too. The way Walt unravels in this scene is crazy. The insanity is multiplied when Skylar chooses to grab a kitchen knife instead of the phone. She could have dialed 911 here, but somehow she wants to help keep things hidden. The pain exposed here is unrelenting and powerful as Skylar and Walt fight over the knife. After Walt realizes there is nothing left for him here, while Walt Jr. calls 911, he leaves the house trying to kidnap Holly on his way out. This poor Holly. This poor little baby trying to be kidnapped twice in like 2 episodes. Real horror, dread, and sadness explode from Skylar as she watches her daughter being torn away. The terror and sadness is extraordinary, and it has become a full-on horror movie. It's become a horror movie. I mean, it's not classic. You could call it's nothing like classic horror, but it is. I've seen it this several times, and I'm literally terrified in my seat even thinking about it. In the phone call, while police are listening, he washes her clean by claiming to be the only one involved in any illegal activity. He even takes the blame for Hank, as all 3 of them, Marie, Skylar, and Walt, weep as a remorseful gesture for Hank. Season 5, episode 15. Walt is pretty accepting of defeat as he is hauled away to his empty future in a red minivan, where a stray dog crosses the street. The reveal of Robert Forrester as Ed the vacuum cleaner repair shop owner is a pleasant surprise, and he nails the perfect essence of the guy who helps people who are in trouble find their way to a fresh start. Here, we discover that Walt and Saul are forced to put up with each other for just a tiny bit longer. After the Nazis realize that Jesse ratted Todd out, Uncle Jack is prepping to kill Jesse. Todd saves Jesse's life by flexing his ability to learn more from Jesse, stopping Jack entirely. The remorse I have for Jesse in these last few episodes is unbelievable and sad, increasing the need for his freedom exponentially. His face is still all torn up. Walt attempts to take Saul hostage, but the cancer takes over.